It's almost 11:30, so we're going to try to get started on time today. It's not quite 11:30, so it is 11:30 now. So I just want to say, number one, my name is Jim Howell. Thank you for being here today. If you're a member of this board, you've been appointed by this board, you should be at the table. If you're a visitor, you're not on this board, then we'd like to have you in the chairs on the outside. For the members, we did provide a lunch for you today. If you don't want that lunch, you don't have to take it. You don't have to eat it, but you're welcome to take it with you or give it away to someone else if that's what you want to do. Thank you, Austin St. John. There's a lunch right there. Come sit at the table after you grab a lunch. That'd be great. A number of members need to be sworn in. Before we get to that, though, I am going to just, if you don't mind, it's not on the agenda technically, but I think every meeting should start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's okay. So if you're willing and able to stand, why don't you go with me and we'll do a Pledge of Allegiance. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you so much. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started here. I'm going to hand out some agendas here. I didn't spend much time making this agenda because this is really our inaugural meeting. This is trying to get to know each other. So I'm going to hand these to Kevin. Take one and pass those down. That'd be great. Okay. We'll wait till those get handed out, and then we will do our oath of office for those members that need to have an oath of office still. I want to recognize Kelly Arnold, our county clerk. Kelly Arnold's been county clerk for a long time, and he does business filings, all kinds of technical, administrative work for the county. Appreciate all you do, Kelly. Probably not saying that right, but anyway, if you want to. Good enough. All right, that's good. And then I also recognize Kyle Magnus. Thank you so much. As manager of the City of Derby, not on the board. We have Mayor Mark Statz serving today, but I want to say thank you both to Mark Statz and City Manager for being accommodating and hosting this meeting today. I wanted to be central to the District 5, and this is about the middle. I go all the way to Mulvane, all the way to Kellogg. So we have members from Minnehaha Township. We also have members from City Mulvane. And so with that, we wanted to be somewhere that's kind of hopefully in the middle that everyone can hopefully get here for lunch. And I'm trying to be respectful of your time today. We started on time. At 12:45, we're going to end. Even if we're not done, we're going to end at 12:45 so you can get back to work. And so that's our goal. If we end early, we can do that. But if we do need to go to 12:45, we're going to try to end on time. And with that, Kelly Arnold, would you be willing to come up here? Any members that need to be sworn in, if you've not taken an oath of office yet for this board, we want you to go ahead and come up front, please. And I'm going to give this microphone to Kelly.
Hold on 2 seconds.
Right ahead. I know there's at least two people that can't be here today. Becky Tuttle is not here, and Kelly Bellafield is not here today.
So I'll get you guys sworn in, and I have all your things here. We just need to get aside when I'm done. So
I'm going to have you do this on microphone because this is audibly recorded. There you go.
Jim, can I do it from right here?
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that's fine. I'll bring you the deal. Yep. All right. So we'll do this. We'll just raise your right hand. I'll read through this. You just say "I do," and then I'll have you guys each sign your oath of office, and we'll have a certificate for you. So, all right. I do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of District Collaboration Board for District 5. So help me God.
I do.
All right. Very good. I'll just set these out. If you guys have a pen with you. If not, we'll have one here. Yeah, the names will be right there. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and sign your name, and you can take the certificate that's underneath it, and I need the white paper.
Don Thornbrew. Yep. All right. Well, congratulations, everybody. Thank you for being willing to take the oath. And that leads us to probably one of our most important legal parts of this meeting we've got to talk about. And we're going to do that. So everyone hopefully has a lunch. We're going to talk a little bit about, this is, we have to start every one of our board meetings with talking about, and I could have done this with an attorney here. I told him, I thought we can handle this, so I'm going to take care of my best. Here we go. COMA and CORA. That stands for Kansas Open Meetings Act and Kansas Open Records Act. And how this impacts this board, we want to talk about that briefly. So let's talk about that. Because you're an official board of Sedgwick County, you are subject to Kansas Open Meetings Act and Kansas Open Meetings Act and Kansas Open Records Act. And what that means is that anytime we would come together where there's a majority of this board present, and you discuss subject matter relevant to the things we talk about as a board, that would only be allowed to happen if you're in a public open meeting. And that has to be notification out to the public, and there has to be criteria that we can actually talk together. This is probably not a problem for this board too much, because I don't think it's likely that you guys are going to go down to Little Buster's and have lunch together and talk about. I don't think that's likely to happen here, but it could. So be aware if you are. Memorize the faces. Make sure you know who's in this room. And if you see that there's a whole bunch of you gathered together and you're talking about stuff that relates to the county, you probably need to stop talking about the county. Otherwise, you're allowed to talk about stuff with the county. I would encourage you to please do that. I want you to, in fact, if you don't know, we have 3 cities, 4 school districts, 4 townships, and 3 improvement districts on this board. I also have 3 members at large from the community. Representing Mulvane, Wichita, and Derby, and so I don't think it's likely to happen by accident. Probably the biggest risk of this would be if I send out an email to this board about something we're going to talk about or information about that. We don't want to be interactive, and so to avoid that, I'll probably send that out as a blind carbon copy, so you'll all get that. I'll probably remind you on the email. This is intended to not be collaboration through email. Okay, I want you to have information, receive that information, but you're not. I'm not asking for interactive communication on whatever it is that I send out. Interactive communication should happen here when we're called to order. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, sir.
Some of these guys, I'm from Riverside Township, I send you OID, we have projects going, I have to talk to them. Okay, if I'm Riverside Township, Riggins. If I have some of you who we got projects going on in there, can I talk to them?
Okay, so let's say that the 3 improvement districts want to get together, and you're a member, and you have a member from each of the other 2 improvement districts. You want to get together and talk about improvement district things. That's totally fine, because there's only 3 of you.
It's usually on the job.
Now, and again, I'm sure that every elected official, there's a number of you in here, will say, I should have recognized a minute ago, we have Mayor Mark Stats in the room. We're going to do some introductions in just a minute. Superintendents, I'm so proud of having you guys here today. But any elected official knows this training pretty well already. You are restricted from having communication without being called to order. There's a process, there's a right process to do that, and you can't just do things over the phone or through email without the public having awareness of what's being discussed. The public has a right to hear it, and they have a right to know what's being discussed, and essentially have again, transparency and accountability of elected officials is what that's rooted in. So this is a Kansas law, and there is no way around it. If you have any questions on this, details, we do have a county counselor's office, and they'd be glad to give you personal, private training on this if you want to go much deeper. But just really realize, I think, that the limit of our ability to talk to each other is when we're called to order in this room. I should have probably done that already. I should have said this at the very beginning. I'm calling us to order. Here we are on March the 10th, 2025. We are now called to order as a district collaboration board. So, and when we're together and we're called to order, we can certainly discuss anything we like. Public is invited to participate. You'll notice the number of members of the public in the room. They're always invited to participate by being in the room. We don't necessarily have to have public comment. We can do that. We can talk about that in a few minutes. But we certainly cannot have private meetings with the majority of this board. That's really the one thing we cannot do, okay? And this electronic meetings, I talked about that kind of briefly. If we do an email and there's a collaboration that happens on an email, that's why I want to do a BCC. So again, if you want to talk to 1 or 2 members about something that you're interested in talking about, maybe the superintendents want to chat with each other about something that's school related, or maybe the city council / mayors want to talk about something that's relevant to their cities. That's certainly fine. It's just what you can't do is you can't have interactive discussion by a majority of the board through any form or fashion without the public being notified and being able to participate in terms of listening in and what's being said. Is there any questions on that slide? All right. I'll send this out to you guys after this is over. This, by the way, this was prepared by our legal department, so I didn't have to write this. They prepared this to make sure that you guys know from their perspective what needs to be understood. Okay. And I think this is unlikely. There is a thing called an executive session that could be had, but I don't see any reason for a district collaboration board ever to have an executive session. Bodies like city councils and other elected bodies sometimes may have executive sessions. They're very, very limited when you can have those. And I really don't foresee any opportunity for a collaboration board to have an executive session. So it's just not going to happen. Okay? By the way, this is a personal violation. If you get caught violating Kansas Open Meetings Act, you can have a personal fine of up to $500 per incident. So if someone thinks that you've broken this and they turn that into the state ethics and it's investigated, it may come back to the Attorney General, to the district attorney to investigate. Either one can do that. But if they find that you've broken this, they can actually institute fines up to $500. Okay. Now this is, I don't think we need to have a lot of bylaws. Again, this is, the intent of this board is to collaborate, to get to know each other, talk about issues that cross boundaries between school districts, cities, improvement districts, and townships. And there's a lot of things that I think fall into those camps of things we can talk about. And I don't want to give you a long list right this minute, but I do think it's we need to just have a very basic framework for bylaws. Actually, I have a copy of this, I believe. I'll hand these out as well. There's only a couple points in there I think are really important. Basically, this just says we're going to have meetings. And we're going to have meetings when I organize them. And right now it's my intent that the odd months of the year, so next year it'll be January, March, May, July, on goes. The second Monday of each month at this time and at this place is where we plan to have meetings. Now that's with the exceptions if there is a inclement weather or a holiday or something that would prevent us from meeting, then we would probably want to talk about that before, especially if we can do it the meeting before, about maybe changing the meeting schedule. But that's our general meeting schedule. And talks about Robert's Rules of Order. Again, I'm not perfect on that, but we're going to essentially follow Robert's Rules of Order. And let's see, what else does that say? We're not going to hear zoning and conditional use cases. I don't think it's not really appropriate for this board to do that. I do, let's go to the next slide. I think there's going to be one more. We can take action if you feel like there's something we want to vote on. We can take a motion and a second. We can have debate and discussion, and then we can vote. If there's something you want to register an official opinion of this board, we can certainly do that. By the way, I should have also introduced Michelle. Michelle, thanks for being here. She's with the county. She's taking notes for us today. And I also should let you know I am audibly recording this. I'll be providing this audio, which is why I'm on microphone today. I know you can hear me probably without the microphone, but I want to make sure I provide this audio recording to our technology staff back at the county, and they will post this in an appropriate place, probably on YouTube with some information that goes along with that. So this will be posted for the public's consumption later on. If you guys want to come back and listen to this meeting again, you can certainly do that, or share it with somebody else that wasn't able to be here, or whatever. If you guys want to listen in through recorded meetings, you can certainly do that. Okay, so there's probably the one thing I think I'd like to talk about today. This is not, we've not adopted these rules. We may have a motion in a few minutes to adopt these rules. I've had a number of questions about what happens if you can't be here, and what do we do? Do we want to just miss a meeting and have no one representing your organization? I think that that's not ideal. So I've come up with this paragraph here. Let me just read it. It says, in the event that a stakeholder representing a taxing subdivision identified within this resolution would be unable to attend a particular meeting, that stakeholder may elect to designate a non-voting alternate to speak on behalf of their taxing subdivision during that particular meeting. The stakeholder would need to inform the chair, that's me, of the DCB of the non-voting alternate designation prior to the meeting. The non-voting alternate would not be able to vote, nor would they be able to, for the purposes of establishing a quorum. In other words, a quorum in this meeting is 10. There are 18 members appointed, counting myself. We have 10 of us to get together. That is a quorum. Okay, so a quorum is 10. And so your alternate will not be counted for the purposes of a quorum. But as long as we have 10 other members here, I would invite that alternate non-voting member to sit at the table and listen in and make commentary on behalf of your organization on those events that you can't be here. I would like to encourage the member that's duly sworn to serve on this board to be faithful to attend these meetings. I don't have any language in here about getting you kicked off. You serve at the pleasure of your organization. And to the extent that your organization wants to have a seat at the table, then you need to be here. If your member doesn't really want to be here, they don't see value in being here, I guess you don't have to come. But that's your choice. And so I would just say, we are keeping track of the attendance, and I would really encourage each member to attend these meetings faithfully. And if you know you can't be here for some conflict that you cannot resolve, or if you're sick or something happens, if you let me know, you can send an alternate in your place. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to have a permanent alternate. We've done that in some boards. In this case, I want you just to let me know for a particular meeting that you're going to have so-and-so sit in your spot. And again, we don't count them for a quorum. They can't make motions and vote, but they can certainly discuss the items with the rest of the members here during that meeting. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that? That's a recommendation. This is my own language. If you guys want to chew on that, we can come back later and adopt these rules at our next meeting. That's really probably the biggest meat of this entire list of bylaws. There's a lot of things we could add. I don't know that we need to add anything else. To me, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what you've seen thus far in the bylaws? Is anybody concerned enough that they want to hold off adopting these bylaws? Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adopt the bylaws as presented. All right. I'm not motioning. I'm entertaining a motion from anybody who wants to make that motion to adopt these bylaws as presented.
I'll make a motion to.
All right. Dale Pratt makes a motion to adopt the bylaws as presented. Who's the second?
I'll second that.
All right. Jason Murkowski is seconding that presentation of bylaws. Any discussion about adopting the bylaws? All right. Seeing no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, please say no. I hear no opposition, so the motion has passed. Michelle, did you capture that?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I'm not sure if I went past this by accident. Let's take a look here. Let's talk about introductions. I should have done this earlier, but I wanted to kind of get to some of the meat of why we have just getting started today. We had to get that done, if possible. I do want to just give this microphone to members of the table. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you represent. And if you want to share anything else about why you're here, I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to start with Heather Bohat.
Hello, I'm Heather Bohati, Superintendent of Derby Public Schools. Excited to be here. I think anytime we can get together and have conversations is a good thing to collaborate. So appreciate you putting that together.
Thank you.
Jay Inslee, I'm Superintendent of Mulvane Schools. Happy to be here. Glad to be here.
Mark Stats, the mayor of Derby, Kansas. Got a mouthful there. Glad everybody was able to come to this meeting. Jim and me talked about this a number of months ago, and I think it's a great idea. Representing Southeast Sedgwick County, because our needs are totally different than those of other parts of the county. So I think it's good to get everybody together and find out what those different needs and concerns are.
Very good.
Bill Bowden, Gypsum Township. We maintain about 57 miles of roads, mostly east of the general common.
And Bill, are you the elected member, or are you?
No, I'm the clerk.
You're the clerk of the township.
Of Gypsum Township.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Don Thornbrew, Rockford Township trustee. We got about 40 miles of dirt roads. Doing okay. Glad to see everybody here.
All right, good.
Austin St. John, City Administrator of Mulvane, and excited to start collaborating.
Thank you.
Chris Carlson, I'm representing Minnehaha Township. I'm their treasurer.
Very good.
I'm Greg Evans, clerk of Riverside Township. I'm glad to be here.
I'm Gary Wood, Sunview Improvement District. Glad to be here.
All right, thank you, Gary.
I'm Lori Lane, and I'm just a member at large. I'm a business owner in Mulvane, and I have children in the Mulvane School District.
Very good, thank you, Lori.
Bill DeLong, I'm with Sunset Highlands Improvement District, and I am the director.
All right, great, thank you.
I am Jason Borowski, citizen. I live in East Wichita, but I'm in Derby School District. I also work at Textron in engineering, and I also teach at WSU Tech as an adjunct professor for A&Ps.
Awesome.
I'm Del Pratt. I'm just a citizen as well. I live in Derby, and I'm here because I'm a citizen.
Where do you work?
I work at Spirit Air Systems.
Oh, very good. What do you do?
I'm a composite manufacturing engineer over there.
Wow, thank you.
So, yeah, good to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Chuck Lambert, Superintendent of Roselle.
Very good.
Kevin Christensen, District Manager at Oakland.
Very good, thank you. So, you know what I'm excited about? You know what, I have just recently met Jay Inslee. How long have you been the superintendent?
7 years.
7 years, and we've never met that I know of. If we have we met before?
No.
I don't think, I met Heather quite a lot. You met my wife, thank you. But I've never had the chance to actually talk with you. And looking around the room, actually, I'm just thinking here that, you know, Gary, you're new on that board, aren't you? How long have you been on that board, Gary? 5 months. And by the way, I should recognize that Dorothy Kaiser, also on the Sunview Improvement District, is here in our audience. Okay. Thank you for being here, Gary. I didn't ever get to meet you before today. Bill DeLong, how long have you been on the Sunswept Heights Improvement District?
7 years.
And have we ever met?
Yes.
We have. What did we meet? Do you remember?
At various meetings.
All right.
And we communicate quite a bit through some emails.
Well, for some reason, I never put your face to the fact that you're the elected official at Sunswept Heights Improvement District. I know there's been a number of issues on some of the streets around there.
Yes.
And I'm so glad, you know, it seems like, I'm not sure it's working better or not, but when Chris is there, I think things have smoothed, from my perspective, things like, there's a little bit less conflict than there maybe used to be. So I appreciate you guys working together, it sounds like. I know you guys, and I was saying here, Chuck, how long have you been superintendent of Rose Hill?
Rose Hill 2 years. I did 31 years in Nebraska, and then retired and moved down here.
Chuck, it's really a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so glad we made the connection today. See, so here's one thing I'd like to do is before the superintendents leave today, would you guys be willing to share contact information with each other? Because I think that there's opportunities. By the way, Kelly Bellafield is on this board as well. He's a superintendent of 259. He's unable to be here. This is the first meeting. He said, I just can't, this one I can't be there, but I'll be at every other one as far as I know. So again, having that designated alternate would be great for someone who has a situation. But having superintendents who share a boundary, Rose Hill touches Derby, Derby touches Mulvane, right? It's important to, I think, to have each other's phone number and to talk about things that might impact some of the students in your community. Likewise, you know, Rockford Township touches gypsum. And I think 71st Street is a great example where there's issues along that road where taxpayers on this side of the road pay to this township and taxpayers on this side of the road pay to that township. We're not going to maintain half a road. And there's things that where one side is not happy about the other side, and so they end up usually calling me, and I usually end up calling them. So I really appreciate you guys, you know, collaborating on issues that deal with 71st Street. You know, out in the county, there's also buses that travel and pick up kids on township roads. So it's important, I think, for them to understand from the school's perspective what is considered maybe an unsafe road, or what are the challenges you're having with some of the roads in your school district. And then we talk about, you know, obviously everything comes up into the cities. And by the way, Becky Tuttle would be on this board, and she's not here today. She's actually in Washington, D.C. today. She's on City Council of the City of Wichita for District 2. I'm sorry, District 2, right? District 2. And that's northeast from here. It comes into my district quite a ways, but it goes like all the way to Pawnee Street, I believe, maybe a little further. Anyway, she would also be here, and she and I talk very frequently about the issues between city and county. I want to talk about what is Sedgwick County. What is some? Let me get the agenda real quickly. Okay, so ideas for future meetings. I don't know, let me just briefly talk about the history of advisory boards of District 5. Back before my predecessor was elected to the county commission, there was no advisory board for the district. It wasn't until when he became an elected official, he created a district advisory board. And on that board, you might remember, I don't know, Mark, were you here at that time? I believe Kathy Sexton was on that board, and I'm not sure who all was on that board, but there's a number of people who were basically organization representatives, if you will, that served on that district advisory board. And my predecessor, he chaired that board. They had a lot of informational things coming from the county to that board. Things like, if I wanted to bring in the county appraiser right now, that'd be a very popular topic, perhaps, right? Talk about how does this work? Why are things the way they are? So we can have a discussion about the appraisal process and what can we do to change that? How does this impact your taxing jurisdiction? So there's value in maybe having a discussion with the county appraiser. We also deal with things like kinds of public safety. We do emergency management. We have a fire department that has a responsibility into the townships, right? But we also have an agreement with Derby, so we go into Derby and even Mulvane to provide some services, but we also know that Derby and Mulvane goes out into the county. So there's an issue with public safety. We also know, in my personal opinion, I think our EMS is ready to grow. We need to grow some paramedic teams in Sedgwick County. And the question is, where's the greatest need? From my perspective, I think southeast Sedgwick County is one of the greatest needs for another, expanded, if you will, EMS service. And I think we need to talk about how to get that done. I want to understand the data. But me personally, I'll be advocating for another crew to come on board and hopefully be placed out here in the southeast part of the county. Derby might need, if you will, another EMS station in the city of Derby to hopefully reach out into the southeast part of the county. So public safety is another topic. There are traffic problems all around the county. I think about 95th Street has a lot of interest because that actually is a dividing line between Derby and Mulvane, and actually Mulvane School District comes this side of 95th Street a little bit. I live in Derby, about a half mile this side of 95th Street. My backyard is the boundary between Mulvane School District and Derby School District. It's right there at my backyard fence. So I know that there are some. It's funny. I talk to people all the time. They say, "Well, I have a Rose Hill School District and a Derby postal. My post office is Derby, but I have a Mulvane School District." Or I have other people say, "I'm a Mulvane school system." I'm sorry, someone says Rose Hill School District. Excuse me. Someone else might say, "I'm a Mulvane School District, but I live over closer to Hayesville." Okay, so these boundaries are not perfect, if you will. So there's a lot of overlap between taxing jurisdictions. Having said that, I think there are issues that we need to talk about. So unless we intentionally get to know each other and talk about some of these issues, then I don't know that we necessarily will organically talk about them. Maybe we will. But I've talked to lots of folks in the past that says, we don't really talk about that stuff. Maybe we should, but we haven't really had those conversations. So this is hopefully trying to encourage discussion. So with that, I would like to have Michelle capture some of our discussion here, but I'd like to know from the top of your head, what are the things you want to talk about? Whether it be a presentation from the county or something that you can think of that you believe is an important topic that crosses boundaries. It's not just between me and you personally, but it's also maybe other people in the room that have an interest in the very same topic. What are those things we want to talk about? I can think of a number of those, but I'd like to ask you guys what you think regarding what kind of things do you want to talk about going forward. By the way, and I should have mentioned that that advisory board that was historic, my end of that when I became the county commissioner back in 2015. And then in 2018, when Dave Dennis was elected, he created a district advisory board. And ultimately, all 5 county commissioners created an advisory board, but they were community citizens, if you will. They didn't represent organizations. And again, they do great work. The other cabinet boards spend a fair amount of time talking about property rights cases. District 5 CAB board, I want to say thank you for Olivia Hayes for being here, Faith Martin, but she was on that CAB board, and there's other people that probably attend to that once in a while. But that CAB board they did great work, but it was citizens talking about their personal opinions. It wasn't necessarily representing an organization like a city or a school district. And so I think there was certainly value there, but I think this is actually my personal opinion. After I've done that for 4 years, I want to get back to this idea of having organizations represented in there, because think about how many constituents, how many students, how many teachers, how many tax dollars are being paid into your organization to have this bigger discussion. Heather, there's things you're doing that are fantastic, that you're very proud of. And maybe someone else in there say, you know what, we have the same problem. We haven't really quite solved that yet. And so y'all can learn from each other. Just the other day, I was at a county, last Wednesday, I think it was, Hayesville brought in their Mayor's Youth Council. I was very impressed, and I just think that every school district ought to maybe consider how can they get some students involved in civic leadership, if you will, at the high school level. And again, that Mayor's Youth Council was there, and I think they represented, if you will, a great organization. And Russ Kessler, from the Mayor of Hayesville, essentially leads that Mayor's Youth Council. That's a good idea. So I'm not saying it's good for everybody, but maybe other school districts would say, you know what, we kind of like that idea too. We maybe should do that where we're at. Let's take a look at that. So that's the type of thing. If you're proud of something you've done, you've solved a problem. You can share what we've done. We're quite proud of this. I think townships have things they're very proud of. That they've done great things about how they take care of their infrastructure in the township roads and that type of thing. The improvement districts, you have unique challenges. I mean, your subject matter is very limited, but you are providing a service. One thing that everybody in this room should recognize is that everybody at the table, one way or the other, has a connection to a taxing subdivision. We're all taxing the people for services. And what we want to do is keep our taxes as low as possible, deliver those services that people expect and demand. And so when it comes to a school district, you want to have smart students. That's really your goal, is to have students that can go out in the career field and provide the next generation of workers for our community. And so schools have a mission statement that's driven towards that. And then every city has a different mission statement than schools have. But one thing you have in common is you have a taxing subdivision, and you have a mill levy, you have a budget, and you're levying taxes, and you're providing a service. So we have hopefully some common goals to keep our taxes low and deliver the services efficiently that people expect and demand. So with that, does anybody want to throw out there, what do you want to talk about at our next CAB board meeting? I can bring in county experts, whether it be legal, public safety, public works, human services, homelessness. You talk about it. Yes, Jason, what would you?
I would like, since I am a professor, a teacher at WSU Tech, I would like to kind of talk about the tech programs that are in the high schools right now, because not every student's going to go to college, and we really need kids to go into those tech. I mean, I love aviation and airplanes, so I'd rather have them all go into aviation, but not all kids are going to do that. So I'd just like to know all the programs that the schools are doing that feed into like VOTech, WSU Tech, and all the other technical colleges.
Do you think there's an opportunity that we're not checking that box today?
Well, I just want to know all the programs, because I don't know all the programs that the high schools or even the middle schools have. I mean, I would like to see it started in the middle schools, because I don't know if the middle schools have it. I know the high schools do on certain programs, but I'd like to start earlier to just kind of grab that imagination of that child and have them get excited about something going forward.
Very good. Anybody have any comments or questions about Jason's comment? It's a good idea. I don't know if we want to bring in someone from WSU Tech to talk about that. I actually talked with WSU Tech just literally last Friday. They're doing an expansion out there, $43 million expansion out of WSU Tech. And the reason I talked to them is that they were asking us for $1 million of support. And the question is, is this appropriate to get $1 million from Sedgwick County, provide, if you will, some support, CIP support for WSU Tech. And their goal is to enhance, if you will, their aviation programs, the drone school, pilot school, and I don't know if it's AMP, but it's more aviation-based training, expanding that footprint. I believe that she told me they're looking at 10,000 students. I don't know if she talked about this year or next year, but the number I believe was 10,000 students that are engaged. Just about 10 years ago, it was like less than 1,000 students. So it has drastically increased. and it seems to be extremely popular. They're providing general education for students who want to go into WSU 4-year school. They're also providing all kinds of training certificates, things like welding and all kinds of sheet metal, whatever work. We do have a very important pipeline. You guys too, you work at Spirit, you work at Textron, is that right? You know, we have a huge need in this community to continue to fill that pipeline with workers that can fill those jobs. And it's not just aviation though. We also have the bioscience facility coming downtown. We have, I think, one of our biggest needs in Central County is we're trying to find a pipeline of people who can fill mental health care counselors. And mental health care is almost a crisis in Central County. We have ICT-1, which is there's different names for these different groups, but ICT-1 has 3 professionals that goes out. ICT-2, 3, 4, and 5 have 2 professionals go out. We also have ComCare has another mobile mental health service they provide through a state grant. So we have a number of things that are mobile mental health, but we also have ComCare. We are in the process of expanding ComCare, basically doubling the footprint of our ComCare services in Central County. We also have the mental health hospital going out east, or out northwest. And so the bioscience facility, which is being constructed downtown, you see that giant crane down there. We think that's going to be a pipeline for people going through that training track that can hopefully fill those needs. But we have right now we have a great enough need. We don't have any idea where these people are going to come from. So it's a huge problem. Some of the big problems we have downtown right now, which I don't know how this impacts your cities or your communities. In townships, I know there's a lot of illegal dumping, right? I'm thinking about Sunview and Oakland have some trash service challenges, I should say, where the community could hopefully get some help to clean some of that up. That right now is not getting everything it needs right now, so that's just an ongoing challenge. But we also know that some townships and improvement districts, I think, have some challenges in that area. But where was I going with that? We have. I lost my train of thought. I apologize. Vocation. So I was trying to say is we have a homeless problem. That's where I was going with that. So we have mental illness issues, mental health issues in our county. We also have a lot of homelessness in our county, and those two things tend to overlap with each other. And the homeless issue gets out into people illegally camping in certain places in the cities, city parks, out in the county. They basically just do it, and there's not a lot of things we can do about that, really. But there's efforts starting up, if you will, trying to address that. One of the things we're doing right now is downtown is that MAC, the multi-agency center downtown. On that multi-agency center, that's primarily led by Wichita, but the mental health side of that, which is a big part of that, is going to be essentially funded through Central County. So, again, we have a lot of things we're involved in on mental health and homelessness. And then we also deal with issues of substance abuse. And your community, I have no doubt, has been impacted by substance abuse issues. And sometimes that also impacts things like family structure. Kids that are in a situation where it's not good for these kids. And so they're dealing with this in the home and all kinds of things that can happen from that. So there's a lot of really difficult issues. Some of this deals with state laws. By the way, one thing we should also talk about, and I see Kyle over here, we should talk about legislation. There's all kinds of, they're in session right now. We're meeting kind of late as our first meeting, but it would not be a wrong thing for us to collaborate about legislation that, what do we want to see happen in Central County? Is there something we can talk about and maybe agree on that may be legislatively based, that has an impact on all of what we do here? That might be something we can talk about, maybe not so much this year because the session is down to just a few weeks left. We're kind of late to the game on that this year, but maybe next year we can do a little more work on that. So with that, what else do you guys want to talk about? That I heard what Jason said. What else? Yes, Mark. Mayor stats.
Thank you, Jim. First of all, thank you for pulling this together. I think it's important to get everybody together to discuss this. And obviously, Derby's needs or wants are going to be different than everybody else's. But I still think, as we look at this as a South Central Central Southeastern Sedgwick County issue. You and me a couple weeks ago talked for about an hour on some taxation stuff, and EMS was brought up. So I think that's very important. A lot of people don't think about it until they need EMS, and there's been one EMS post in Derby for 30 years.
Yes.
And Derby has grown a lot since then.
Yeah.
And I don't have the exact numbers, but anecdotally listening and paying attention, I know some of the response times are very slow. So I think talking about how does that look? Yes, I know it's a shifting of services or adding more dollars or however that looks, but I think the discussion needs to start now because we know nothing will happen fast. But if it does become a public safety issue, if you live at a 95th and 127th Street East, way southeast Kent, and the nearest units may be coming from Hayesville or Pawnee or Webb Road and Harry Street area. So they've got some long hauls, and I've got some of the data in my office that, if we ever want to talk about that. So I think that's very important because that affects a lot of the school districts within this area.
Absolutely.
Because one unit gets tied up, they get sucked into that circle of Wichita, and they just can't get out of it. Since the entire southeast region can be without an ambulance for quite some time. So I think that's important. Stormwater funding, I think that's important because, we have the Spring Creek watershed that starts north, South Wichita, comes through the county, comes through here. And I know the county did a lot down at the river a number of years ago, I think 2016, 2017 time frame. But I think it's still an issue that, I wish we were worried about it now. That means we'd have more rain. But I think we have to keep our eye on the ball and not wait till we're, behind the curve on that one and keep working on stormwater funding, and maybe we will get some rain. And the second is, and this does affect everybody in this area, is also seniors center funding. Derby has a very active senior center, but we know we are pulling from South Wichita, Mulvane, Hayesville, Rose Hill area. A lot of those people are showing up to the Derby Senior Center just because it's a little bit more robust. And I don't mean to belittle any of the others, but they just, it's a bigger senior center. And I think senior center funding is a big issue to possibly bring to the table here. So thank you.
Michelle, did you grab all that? Okay, good. That was a great list, and I'll respond in just a moment. Chris Carlson.
Chris Carlson, Minnehaha Township. To your point, Jim, about the pipeline of young people, that I think is the biggest issue for our area is how do we attract and maintain young people. That is our future. None of the businesses that we have, the cities that we have, they are all going to be supplied and maintained by young people. So how do we keep them here? How do we keep our businesses viable? Even in my industry, I'm an architect. We are always trying to attract young talent, and Wichita and the area has a difficulty with that. We're competing against the Kansas Cities. We're competing against Oklahoma City and Dallas. We've got to find a way to compete with these young people and get them excited to stay here. The other thing, something I think we should be addressing and talking about in the future is how do we consolidate redundant services but still maintain quality service? I mean, we're at a point where taxes are probably not going to lower because the cost of doing business is not going down. So how do we get better at doing business? So that's what I have.
And again, just very anecdotally, people love to have more services and more stuff, and they don't want to pay. They want to pay less taxes. Taxation is supposed to be fair, but there's people out there that are sure their taxes are being, they're being picked on. Their taxes are too high. There's a lot of arguments for less taxes. So a couple of things you've said, both you and Mayor. By the way, Mayor does wear two hats. He's also the president and CEO of the Derby Chamber of Commerce. He's got to focus on businesses, trying to get them to be prosperous and thrive here in the city of Derby. And you mentioned a number of things that are basically funding related. Let me just talk about a couple of those. The stormwater drainage issue is really a funding question. Kansas City, or should I say Johnson County, has a sales tax dedicated to stormwater infrastructure. The Kansas statutes, as you probably know, don't require us to do any stream maintenance It doesn't require us to do stream maintenance. It's something we choose to do. And right now we use funding from property tax dollars primarily to fund a very small program. It doesn't do much. We do that because we think it's a good idea. We were able to address things like what happened here in the downstream of Derby. If you don't know, that blockage can cause that water to back up all the way through Derby. So the homes in Derby get flooded if they don't take care of that blockage downstream. So there's two problems. You have to manage the water upstream, and you have to make sure the blockages downstream don't dam up the water and create flooding upstream from that. But this is largely a funding question. We have talked about this at least half a dozen times since I've been a county commissioner. Had formal presentations from our environmental resources group that shows there's a number of ways to solve this problem if we have the willpower to do it. One of these, no matter what we do, it's going to be a funding problem. So the question might be, is there a willpower to put some kind of a question on the ballot asking people, do you want us to address this issue, yes or no? When we're in a drought, people don't think about stormwater. But I promise you floods are coming. And I'm not trying to be like Noah, just warning you that floods are coming, but they always come. We have a drought and we have a flood. We have a drought and we have a flood. It happens all the time. The next flood is going to happen. There's no question it's going to happen. If we don't deal with the problems today, when that happens, who are we to blame? Is it a failure of government? Well, I can argue maybe it is. So one of the things we have to do is both manage our water when it's a drought, manage the water. It's a resource. We all need water to live. We need water for our businesses. We need water for our homes. And it needs to be safe. So water is a really big topic. But we also have the problem is when we have too much water, how do you make sure people's property is not damaged? Most people can't manage the water on their property if someone outside their property hasn't done their job. So there's property owners that are dependent on each other, or government, if you will, to create these solutions. And the solutions could be everything from a solid waste fee-like fee, that every property would pay a fee. Of course, I think Derby does pay a fee for stream maintenance within the city of Derby. Wichita also has a fee. I wish Becky was here. I'd ask her and she'd say, yeah, they have a fee. One of the challenges, of course, is if we create a countywide fee, there's probably, I wouldn't be surprised, people will say, wait, I'm paying the fee to the city of Derby or the city of Wichita, and I'm paying the same fee to Central County. So one of those needs to go away. And so what ends up happening is we usually see the cities may want to back out, or somebody has to explain this to people. Now, yes, you're paying two fees, but they do different things, perhaps. The county's program, actually, for stream maintenance doesn't really come into the city of Derby. It stays outside the city of Derby, or outside the city of Mulvane. We don't come inside the cities, because we know cities have, we think, a responsibility to take care of what's inside the city. So, for the county to do this, it's a money problem, isn't it? And the question is, should we believe in this enough that we want to put this on a ballot, if you will, and have people create a funding stream? Years ago, we talked about, when Kathy Sexton was on this map, this Stormwater Management Advisory Board, okay? Kathy Sexton was on that SMAP. We had other members from the city of Derby, I think 3 members of the city of Derby, if I remember right. We talked about potentially creating, if you will, a sales tax solution, if you will. And it might be, a tenth of a cent, or it might be some small amount of money, but creates, just so you know, county-wide, if you have a dedicated sales tax, 1% sales tax creates about $140 million today. So we don't need that much money. That's too much. I would say a tenth of a cent will create, think about that, $14 million. And then if you were to leverage that on some type of an application basis, and you rank these projects over time, be able to address this project inside or outside the city of whatever, and eventually that money gets leveraged with the city's support, and we can find ways to protect our property owners across the entire county. That was such a great idea, but there's not willpower from the commission, I think, to put that on a ballot. So if the SMAB can't get something to move, the SMAB decided why meet, because I don't see a point in meeting to talk about something that will never happen. So they got disheartened, if you will, and they stopped meeting again. I promise you, though, next time we have floods, I'll bet you anything, they'll start meeting again. This happens every few years, right? You mentioned consolidation of services, Chris. One of the ideas being talked about by my colleagues more than me, and I'm not against the idea, but there's a belief that the more you consolidate, the more efficient government gets. And there may be some truth to that. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. Right now we have consolidated 911, we have consolidated EMS. Now Mulvane's a bit of an exception. Mulvane has got their own 911 and their own EMS. And that's because we are taxing people for those services, we actually rebate the city of Mulvane. The tax money we collect on their behalf, we give it to them as a payment back to the city of Mulvane. Whether we're levying taxes, countywide, we can't really exclude them from the tax levy. We take that levy, we calculate what that's worth, if you will, and give that money back to Mulvane. Maybe not fairly, that's another good question. But at the end of the day, we have countywide EMS and countywide 911. So what that means is we've consolidated those services. Theoretically, it's more efficient, and I think it is. It's more coordinated, if you will. But now that means if you're not happy with the service, you feel like you're being unfairly. You're not getting a fair share of the services. You're not getting the response that you want. It creates dissatisfaction. And right now there's some I wish Becky was here, but there's some dissatisfaction on the part of Wichita with our EMS and our 911. And they are actually dabbling with the idea of doing something in addition to, in other words, creating a duplicate service. And duplication costs money. Because there's dissatisfaction on the part of the city, there's now some interest in potentially, if you will, recreating that thing to supplement rather than working with the county. So again, if you're not happy with the service we're providing, you need to find out why that is. I know there's some challenges with our response times out in Southeast Wichita. I'm advocating for more public safety services out in the southeast part of the county. You may not know this, but maybe you do. District 5, this district goes all the way to Kellogg, picks up Minnehaha Township. To 1/3 of Minnehaha is in District 5. Is that right? Pawnee to Kellogg. And then we have the other 3 townships are really entirely in District 5. We have all of Derby, this side of the river. If Derby crosses the river at all. Kyle, does it drop across the river?
No.
It doesn't. So really all of Derby and all of Mulvane and Central County is in my district, in my portion of Wichita, all the way to Kellogg. That is the smallest district. We have just a little more than 100 square miles in this district. District 3 County Commission is 4.5 times larger than my district. So that just shows you how much, they got more, they have 9 active townships in that district, where I only have 4, okay? There are, I can't tell you how many there's 20 school districts in Central County. Am I right about that? You don't know. I believe there's 20 school districts that come into Central County. 259 is really completely inside Central County. A lot of the other school districts actually go outside Central County. And so, at the end of the day, it's really hard to have a service that is fairly meted out. When we have one, by the way, as you know, the apportionment of both, the vote apportionment is the same in my district as it is on District 3. So you might say, well, the same number of people out there versus my district, do they get more sheriff's officers out that way? Yeah, they do, for lots of reasons. And so the way tax services are meted out is basically on a needs basis. And so we actually get more tax dollars on some services than what they get out that way. For example, senior services was one of those examples. Commissioner David Dennis would be very, very upset about what he thought was unfairness on how senior service dollars were divided between District 5 and District 3. And I know that Heaven's over here. She's with the Oaklawn Improvement District, but she also wears a second hat. She's the director of the Oaklawn Senior Services Programs. How do you say that? Is it? Oaklawn Sunview Senior Center. She's the director of that as well. And she has a very similar comment that you had, Mr. Mayor, that we have a lot of people that don't live in Oaklawn and Sunview. They're coming into that to receive services. If they're paying no taxes to Oaklawn or Sunview, and they're receiving services from the senior center there. And if you're subsidizing that, you're saying, well, I live in Oaklawn or Sunview, and I'm paying taxes to these improvement districts. Much like a city, you pay city taxes to the city of Derby, and Derby also provides some funding to the Derby Senior Center, right? Well, Oaklawn and Sunview provides some funding to the senior center, but some of the people who are receiving services there have nothing to do with the improvement district. And it feels like it's unfair, right? So this kind of thing happens all over the place, where someone receives a service, not paying in, if you will, a commensurate amount of dollars into taxing for the services they're receiving. Happens all the time. So back to the fairness issue on public safety. I think there is an issue of fairness, especially when it comes to EMS and fire in Central County. I think Oaklawn receives more sheriff's calls. The sheriff spends a lot of time in Oaklawn. There's more calls to Oaklawn for whatever reason, and so they're getting plenty of attention from our sheriff's office. There's other services we provide that I think that District 5 gets a good share of those services. When it comes to public works dollars, we're probably the loser. Public works dollars, we don't get nearly as much because we don't have nearly as many roads. Our population density is 4.5 times larger than District 3. So we get a very small amount of public works dollars. But we do get a lot more social services dollars, if that makes any sense. Back to consolidation, again, if it provides more efficiency, and let me restate that, means less tax dollars for better services, some combination of those two things, right? If that can be done, then that's usually a pretty good thing. Consolidation is something we should at least think about. But also, when you consolidate something, you also lose control of it. You have to trust the other entity to provide that service, right? And that doesn't always work out very well because there's a lot of things county does for everybody in this room, and I hope you're happy, but you may not be happy. And some things are done, I think, election office is a great example. Are you happy with our election office? Are you happy with tornado sirens? Are you happy with, the district attorney and the county jail and how we adjudicate crime cases in Central County? You might be really happy with those things. County clerk was here a minute ago. Are you happy with the service he provides? Yeah, I wasn't really very happy too long ago when they took the driver's license office the tech office out of Derby. I think there's a loss of service. They didn't like that. And I don't think that should have happened personally. But it did. And I don't know that was not good for Central County, my personal opinion. But that's one of those things I didn't have any control over. At the end of the day, let's see, we've got about 15 more minutes here. I talked a little bit about those ideas. I would just say this, those are great ideas. Both of you came up with a number of things. Mark, you talked about stormwater, public safety. What else did you say?
Senior services.
Senior services. That is going to be a battle because I can tell you that right now the battle is because District 5 gets the greatest amount of senior service funding. For us to defend that may be a challenge ahead, okay? And I know we provide more services to more seniors. I get that. And it's based on how many services are being provided out. But there is going to be a battle ahead of trying to keep that funding where it's at. There are some commissioners who want to change the formula entirely. And I don't think there's going to be a whole harmless clause in that discussion. So there may be challenges ahead to keep the funding we have currently, okay? What other ideas do you guys want to talk about going forward? I've talked about a lot of things, but what else? Anything traffic-wise, public safety-wise?
There's an email went out showing prospective growth. The email went out a week ago. Showed prospective growth. My particular concern was Derby. How it encroaches into Rockford Township. There were 3 different areas of growth, and how that's going to affect us as far as being included in the plans at Derby or the county's roads, traffic control, all that stuff. Lots of information on that.
There may be some areas that need some specific consideration. Again, I'll just say, I keep bringing up this issue of 95th Rock Road. It's a big topic. I think we need to work on something there. That impacts virtually everybody in this, most of the people in this room. This will directly impact what Rockford Township, obviously, with Mulvane and Derby school districts will be impacted, as well as I think cities of Mulvane and Derby will be impacted by that project. So we need to talk about what are we going to do and when's that going to happen. I think it's low-hanging fruit, honestly, that we need to I guess, talk about what we're going to do at that intersection, if anything. I think it's time for us to do something there. And people may not like to see another stoplight, but we need to do something to improve that intersection, in my personal opinion. The other one is K15. We had a fatality accident over Clifton and 47th Street South just recently. And that brings up the question, what's going on over there? If you haven't been through there at rush hour, it is a kind of a mess. And I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. It's a topic that frankly needs to be solved. I don't know what the solution's going to be, but it's a pretty big topic. Let me ask another question for the school superintendents. I think I know what Kelly Belfield would answer this question, but does Mulvane or Rose Hill have SROs in your schools?
We do. We have our actual, Rose Hill does. We have our own police department, actually. We have 2 SROs in our department.
So you're Rose Hill Police?
No, we have our own.
They're for the school district?
Yes, we have our own police, USD 394 police department, and we have 2 that work out of there.
Does that cover high schools and other schools?
Yes.
All the schools have it? Okay. And then Mulvane over here, Superintendent Inslee, what about you guys?
We also have 2 SROs. We just picked up our second one here through a grant. But yeah, 2 that serve all 4 of our attendance centers.
Are they Mulvane Police based, or is this?
They are Mulvane Police as well.
You guys have, okay. And I know that, Heather, you have, I think, 9 PD that covers, no, is that right? 6 PD that covers 9 schools. I just talked with one of your members, and they said it was.
It is 6.
And six Derby police officers have an agreement. 5?
5, and then we have Sedgwick County.
And then Sedgwick County has 1 sheriff's officer that's going to Wine-Tier and Oaklawn and Cooper elementary schools. It's a very interesting topic. What about mental health providers? Does Derby and Rose Hill and Mulvane, do you have any county-based mental health professionals in your schools? You both do?
Yeah, we do.
Rose Hill, you do too. And I hope that's been a good partnership. That's one of the things where we work with the state of Kansas, got grant funding to provide ComCare staff that are in the schools today. They don't provide just services just for the students, but really even their families. If the families need help, there's a connection through that student to the families to get them connected to services. So we want to, yes ma'am, go ahead.
No, I was just going to confirm, yes, we have an MHIT grant and it's been very beneficial, so we appreciate that. But to your point earlier about just mental health in general and looking at services for students, so you have that serves in there, but that's very much, I'd say, an interest that we would have to have further conversation, because there's kids that need additional services and we may wait for like a Heart Springs or something, but we have kids and that's impacting other students and it may take months to get them the services that they need. And so having facilities in the area that kids can get the benefit, it's not, the kids need the benefit, but also the other kids that are in our schools need the benefit too with that. So that is something that we had. Then I have a list of other things.
Oh, please continue.
Okay, so that was one of them. Another one is when you talk about services for kids, and again, I like what you said, that collaboration and trying to work together, consolidating services. But I'd say probably all the districts in here, we do have expelled students that we have, and trying to come up with a creative solution, because yes, they get out of the school, and there's various reasons that kids get expelled, anything from drugs to fights to other things. But there's usually reasons behind of why kids get expelled, and there's supports that kids need. And you think if they don't get the right supports before they come back into schools, things could happen again. But also to everyone else around businesses and other things, the impact that can have too. And on our system later on, because if they don't get the education they need, what it means later in life, you know what I mean with that. So something regarding expelled students and being able to support, and if we all collaborated, I know superintendents, we've talked about that before, but if everybody puts their heads together, that may be something combined, that there's an interest. Another interest is on chronic absenteeism. We have started that with Dee from Sedgwick. She's been fantastic to work with that piece, but I think more work on that and kids that aren't coming to school, got to have them there to learn, and if we can come up with some solutions on that. And another one I had is, you mentioned about with legislation, just a database. On the backside, some things that have come up in education, sometimes, unfortunately, we try to hire and have the best people in our classrooms, but every once in a while you get somebody that's not the best person in the classroom, and say they're pending something at the state level to have a license taken away, or there's certain, if you want to say, things that have happened in school that you really wouldn't want to hire them if you knew that. I understand there's some organizations, meaning services behind the scenes, that they have a database, they know that, and it flags them. But I don't know if that's something we could look at in the education world, if we started even in Sedgwick County and then later got it statewide. But I can tell you, I got 2 calls in the last year from places that didn't claim Derby Public Schools and then learned and they were somewhere else. So it is alive and well, to be aware, and then they show up in a different district. So we want quality people serving our kids. And then my last one, sorry, when you ask, I have a list, is transportation just in general, putting together, and I think those maybe, and when I say that, it's getting kids, it's families, just our whole structure and systems of what we provide. So those are just a few of the things that I have. I won't take the last few minutes.
And that last discussion of transportation is a big challenge for certain parts of our community, especially looking at Oaklawn and Sunview. There's a lot of folks that like to go to work,
right.
But getting to a job, especially if the third shift or second shift on the weekend, it's a nearly impossible problem to solve. So, we have I think around $36,000 roughly to provide a bus service through Oaklawn a few times a day, but the ridership is extremely low. I think if those dollars were captured and we could find a different way of doing that program, maybe direct vouchers to people who need those rides, that might be a better way to do that. But we certainly, I think we need to talk about, what's the best way to spend $36,000 to get people from those communities to places they really need to get to. I don't mean, a social event, but something like work or a doctor's office, things that are really, I think higher priority perhaps. How do we get those folks to those locations in an efficient manner that hopefully helps more people? And one of the challenges I've had in the last few years is trying to defend, if you will, at $36,000 worth of spending. I tell you what, look at the city managers as well as, there you are, Mulvane and Derby city managers being here, and Mark Stats too. Our budgets are going to be challenged going forward. And if people are looking for places to trim our budget, at $36,000 is going to be hard to defend. When you talk about ridership as $30 on average per person to go, in or off that bus, it is just getting to the point where I can't defend that level of spending for the few people that receive that service. We've got to find a better way. And I don't know what that's going to be, but we need to find a way. Honestly, there's if you're working on a budget this year, this is going to be a very challenging year budget-wise. And I know you've heard numbers from Wichita about, how many millions of dollars they're short this year. The state legislature this year, although they seem to have a surplus at the moment, their current tax rates that they get right now, it looks to me like they're projecting deficits in about 2 or 3 years. So they're going to have problems too. Countywide, I can tell you that property tax dollars have hit a threshold that I don't think we can continue. With budget years where you're seeing 7% or more growth in our annual budget, we just cannot do that. And so we've got to find a way to become more efficient in what we provide, or we're going to have to reduce what we provide. So our budget is going to be challenged. So things like that $36,000 for Oaklawn transportation subsidy, I don't know if I can keep it going. I need help, honestly, to support that type of spending, because I don't know, what else we can do better, but we've got to find a solution. And it may be technical. And I keep saying we've got to find a way to make it better. And I'm looking at heaven over here. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but we need to find a solution. I'm looking at you, Dorothy. I know you're not at the table. We have to find a solution. And so senior center funding's challenged. I think transportation challenge are challenged. I think there's plenty of other things that are not being addressed at all by government that, frankly, if we had the money, we probably would do something else on some of these areas. But adding any type of service right now seems to be very difficult to advocate for different or new services that are not already part of our umbrella of what we provide currently. So, Heather, thank you for that list. And Melissa, did you capture all those ideas okay? Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? It's getting close to the end of our time here, about 5 more minutes. Does anybody else want to share an idea or a concern? That anybody you want an expert from the county to come in and provide some type of briefing this group. It can be almost anything. I'm not gonna just assume you want to hear it. I know, Mayor Stats, you generally have emergency management come out and do a briefing every once in a while. You've had, for your chamber lunches, you've had, a number of public safety things. EMS has been here a couple times. Is there anything that, that impacts this room? I think, part of me says public works is a big one. Whereas a lot of it deals with public works that may be overarching for a lot of people in this room. Do you have something, Greg? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. We can end a couple minutes early, that's fine. I will work on an agenda for next time that might relate to some of the topics you guys raised today. My goal. I will send out an email to summarize the things we talked about today. And you'll get that in an email. And we're going to meet. I think the date is on your list there. It's May something. May 12th. That's a Monday in 2 months from now. With that, you guys don't have anything else you want to share? If you didn't get a lunch, please grab one on the way out. And appreciate your attendance. Next month we'll have, I hope Becky and Kelly Belfield will be here again. Two awesome people. Represents a great part of our community. Yes, Bill.
Housekeeping, if we're done with the box?
Housekeeping. Well, I think you should leave them on the table and we will gather them up. We gather those up. It's okay. Just leave them on the table. We'll take care of that.
What time is the hiring teacher?
Yeah, the same time as this one. 11:30 to 12:45. Okay?
Yes.
There you go. Same place, same time, just different day. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned. Appreciate it.